remember hearing Wonderwall on the radio for the first time, just blew me away. I was like, what is this? This is the amazing sound.
Today is going to be the day that we're going to throw it back to you. Hey, music fans, and welcome to Soundlab Studios. We got kind of something different for you today. Haven't really done a lot of 90s music on the channel. At least, not that I've suggested. We had an album by Beck, which was 90s. Didn't really care for that too much. We had the Johnny Cash album from the 90s. That was alright, but... first album suggested by me from the 90s that's going to probably get a pretty good score here. This is the Morning Glory album by Oasis, released in 1995, suggested by Jason the Old Millennial, who you should see right down there. And Bryer is also here, so how you guys doing today?
We're doing good.
Right.
That's great. I know Jason has special memories of this album because he got it when it first came out.
Yep. Yeah, I know. You guys aren't 1995. You guys were born yet, or
no? Not quite.
Okay.
4 years.
Wow. Yeah, so I'm the one that remembers getting this at the store and listening to it for the first time.
I only actually just listened to it this year because I heard you were talking about it so much on your channel. I thought, okay, I'll give it a listen. I was listening to some other 90s music, one being Third Eye Blind's first album, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm going to show the other one. You're going to be like, oh, what is this? But this is kind of a joke, but this was the other one.
Okay.
My friend is actually a big fan of this band, and I was like, oh, they're just a stupid cover band because they had just released their Africa cover.
Right.
He sat me down and we listened to this album, and I'm like, oh wait, no, this is actually a good album, and it's produced by the Cars lead singer, so.
Pretty okay, so yeah.
Yeah, so definitely getting more into the 90s this year.
Cool.
Yeah, that album's on my list on albums to get.
Yes, it is a very good album. I can't exactly say the rest for all their albums, but some of it is really good. But
I don't know Beezer personally. Yeah.
That's one we'll probably review just the first album sometime on the channel. But Oasis, listening to those other 90s albums led me to them, plus Jason talking about it, and wow, this album is really great. Without spoiling anything, I love this album. Pretty much all the songs on here are great. Great listen from start to finish, and I actually just bought this vinyl copy today. It's been a long time since I bought a record, so decided to spend just a little bit of money on it because...
No, that's pretty cool.
It's got an extra song on it too, but I'll get to that when we get to where the extra song is. I honestly think the extra song kind of ruins the flow of the album, but I'll get to that whenever we get to the review of the album. But, Bryer, you have any just kind of general thoughts on the album before we get into the track by track?
Yeah, I just had I knew of Oasis for a long time. When you start getting into music, Oasis gets brought up sometimes because many people compare them to the Beatles and stuff like that. And I've always known some of the hits, of course I knew Wonderwall, I knew Don't Look Back in Anger, but I never heard the whole album in full until Jason did a video on this album, and I was like, okay, it's time to see what all the hype's about. And so I went out and I bought my CD copy, and yeah, that was a really good listening, and it was really nice to kind of re-listen to it again. So yeah, very happy to talk more in depth on this one.
All right.
I steered you right, Bryer.
Yes, you did.
Okay, good.
I have a feeling
Yeah.
we're gonna have similar thoughts about this album.
Because I was about 11 or 12 years old around 1995, and at that point, like coming up to the 1995, I was listening to mostly the Beatles and a lot of 60s music, and it was around that time my older sister, who was like maybe in high school at that point or somewhere around there. I didn't listen to any 90s music, and my sister brought home, and at the time I was listening to cassettes still. I hadn't upgraded to the CDs yet. And my older sister brought home Jagged Little Pill from Alanis Morissette on CD. And I was like, whatever my sister listened to, I would listen to, because I was, the younger brother. I looked up to her. And so I was like, oh, what's this? Never heard of Alanis Morissette or anything. And I listened to that album, and it kind of opened my eyes to 90s rock music in a way. So I was like, oh, I kind of like this. Like, I need to listen to more 90s, which was the current decade. Like, I needed to listen to the current year of music or decade. So, and all my friends, of course, were listening to rock music of that period, or people at school. So I was like, I need to get into, current music. And so I started listening to the radio, the rock station at the time. And I remember hearing Wonderwall on the radio for the first time. Just blew me away. I was like, what is this? This is the amazing sound. Like, I had no idea who Oasis was or anything. And at the time, you didn't have YouTube or Spotify or, I don't know, probably no Google. I don't know, maybe we had Yahoo or something at the time. And I don't know how I figured out. I must have heard the band name Oasis, and I was like, I have to get this album. And I found out that it was What's the Story, Morning Glory album. And I don't know, I must have got some money from like doing chores or something. And I went to the store and bought the CD. It was the very first CD I ever bought was What's the Story, Morning Glory.
Oh, wow.
And this isn't the original one that I had. I bought this recently, but this is a booklet thing that has like 3 CDs in it.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yours is better.
You got the deluxe
Yeah,
edition.
mine's just this little slim thing.
Yeah, mine's like this little book thing. That's
Yeah.
pretty.
Mine is like a
but yeah,
Tri-Gate fold, but I think Jason's wins in terms of most pages.
Yeah, and yeah, it was a very significant album for me, just because to me it was like the very first album I kind of bought, and I had it on CDs for the first time, and I listened to it. I listened to it so much, of course, it was the first one I got, and so it was the only CD I had, so I was just listening to it like crazy, and I absolutely loved this album the first time I heard it, of course. Yeah, we'll get into all the great songs on here. And so, yeah, I always look back at this album as my introduction to almost 90s rock music and all that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize, because used to I thought anything after 1989 was bad. Started listening to this 90s music, and honestly, 90s music is kind of a return to the rock sound. Late 80s, you get a lot of synth pop, new wave stuff. I mean, there were like rock bands at the time, but they were embracing more synth sounds, which actually I'm not against synthesizers. I think synthesizers can be integrated into music very well, but if the synthesizer's like overpowering the guitar and there's no guitar on it, I don't know, it's kind of a it depends case. Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair is an album that I like to cite that is the perfect blend of like synth, guitar, and like it has all the 80s production, but used in all the right ways. But there are some albums that use it in the wrong ways. But in the 90s, it's kind of getting back to like actual piano, actual guitar. Especially with this album sounds like it could have been released in like the late 60s, other than some of the production sounds. But
Right. Yeah.
anyway, let's go ahead and get into the track by track here. Looking at the track listing as listed on the back.
Yeah.
Track 1 is Hello, and it begins with some foreshadowing. The very first thing you hear on the album is a little bit of the Wonderwall intro, which I think is pretty cool.
Mm.
But then it kind of
Yeah.
fades out and then turns into a minor key, and then Hello begins. So what do you guys think of Hello?
Yeah, I think this is a very solid opening track. I remember when I first put it on my computer to listen to it, and I was immediately like, "Oh my god, that's so loud!" But then when I turned it down, that was when I was like, "Okay, Now it's turned down. Okay, now I can hear it properly now.
I have
And
a funny
I think it's a
story
very
kind
good.
of like that.
Yeah, it's just like, but it's just a really good opening track. Kind of really sets the tone of the album, I think. Um, and and what's kind of interesting is that the closing of the song is actually an excerpt from Gary Glitter. It's just a good hard rocking number, and I think it's a perfect way to open the album.
I like it. It starts with hello. I mean, what better way to start an album with hello? You know, I wish they would have had a song called Goodbye or something like that. That would have been like a perfect ender to the album. So
Would have been a Beatles reference too. These guys have a lot of Beatles references on this album.
they love the Beatles. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, everybody said that this was like the second Beatles, which was a huge. I mean, that's a huge thing to say.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they just said because they were a English rock band, and so that's what they went to. But I mean, obviously, they're never going to be the Beatles. But I mean, this album was definitely, the closest they would get to the Beatles, I guess.
My thoughts on this song are that it's a really good introduction to the album. It kind of brings in kind of just the sound of the album. Pretty much good introduction to what you're going to be hearing throughout the whole album. I like the end where it's just like, hello, hello, hello. Like Jason said, really good way to introduce your album with a song called Hello. Really catchy, really good. So it gets a thumbs up for me. All right. Track 2, You Gotta Roll With It.
Yeah, another pretty nice song. Of course, I think the whole story around the song is kind of interesting because this was part of this whole like battle of the Britpop thing going on between Oasis and Blur. Because Blur was releasing a song called Country House, I think, and there was this whole competition like which song's gonna do better on the charts, and Blur ended up winning. That's kind of surprisingly, but I think it's a pretty interesting story there. But it's just another really great rock song here. It's not one of my favorites personally, but it's not really taking a whole lot away from it. Of course, I think Noel himself has said that he's not really a fan of the song either. He's kind of like not really one of the strongest ones. He has said. Although I heard, of course, I saw this Top of the Pop performance, and it's kind of funny because Noel and Liam decided to pretty much troll the whole program and just switch roles. So yeah, having Noel doing the lead vocals and Liam doing the guitar. So it's a good song, but I think in the grand scheme, it's probably the lower side of my ranking if I were to rank up songs. Yeah,
I actually really like this song. It's not like my absolute favorite, but it's one of my favorites on this album. I really like the catchy chorus of it. It is very reminiscent of like a Beatles pop song, something that you can get like the whole audience singing it. You gotta roll with it, you gotta take it, however it goes after that. But, like the jangly guitars, very much British pop music. This, I guess you could call it the Beatles evolved. I don't know, but really catchy and another good song in my book.
Yeah, I agree. This is what the first single or something like that, I think, coming out, or one of them, and
it's not. I don't think it was this song, but this was. I think it was one a little bit later.
Third one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think I read something about that, and so yeah, it's one that I guess when you put out a single, it's definitely one I guess they believed in. Definitely had a catchiness to it as all the songs do, and I'd say all the songs just have incredible guitar parts, and Liam Gallagher is one of my favorite rock singers of all time. I mean, I don't know if anybody else talks about him. He's not very flashy on stage. He just kind of stands there, I think, and just sings into the mic. He's not like Freddie Mercury or something, but his voice is just amazing throughout the album, and like on this song. And I don't know, there's something about this. I don't know if you guys can describe the sound of this album. Is he put so much like it's heavy guitar, of course, and I heard criticism that the guitars are too loud, but I actually like the loud guitars. I always enjoyed it. But it almost sounds like, you also have Noel is like doing like these cool guitar licks or riffs, but then it sounds like there's another guitar, and sounds like there's multiple guitars just going on all at once or something, and it has this incredible sound to it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I think it sums it up.
And
okay, I
I
know if
don't
you had a better explanation of that.
I don't know if it's at the end of this song or the beginning of the next song. I kind of like to think it's the transition that's the end of this song and the beginning of the next song. But when they just cough at the end, I actually
yeah.
think that's really funny. It's a perfect transition
Yeah.
to the next song.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of the next song, this one, if you've never heard this song, you've heard this song. It's a very popular song. Like, I'd actually never sat down and listened to it before I heard this album, but I definitely knew of it. And so whenever it got to this song, I was like, oh yeah, it's this song. Wonderwall. But overplayedness aside, really great song. And of course you have the meme in the guitar community that, like, there's the one guy at the party who gets all the girls just because he can play the 4 chords to Wonderwall. He doesn't even know like the whole song. He just puts his cape on and goes, anyway, here's Wonderwall. But the song is actually really good. I love the orchestration on this song with the string section. Really great vocals, really great melody line to this. Just really catchy. I still think it's one of the best songs on the album.
Yeah, and I agree to that. Like, yeah, it's overplayed, but I think it's overplayed for a good reason because it is a very good song. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those songs that you have to sing along to because when you see it, I saw it actually recently. I saw this recent live version of it where it's just Liam in the solo, he's on a solo tour, and he performed Wonderwall at Nebworth, I think, and the whole crowd was just all into it. Everyone was just singing in unison. It's just a great anthem song. And the lyrics to the song, I think, is also pretty interesting. Of course, the thing about Oasis with the lyrics is what I'm gathering is that they always have many ways to interpret them, so you can interpret it any way you want. And the two big ones for this song in general is that it could be about somebody that you know, or another thing it could be about some kind of imaginary friend that's trying to save you from yourself, from self-destruction and stuff like that. But regardless of who it's actually about, it just has this really great uplifting feeling to it, and it's just a really great song. And a little fun fact here is that the name Wonderwall comes from a George Harrison album called Wonderwall Music, so another Beatles connection there.
And of course you got the reference in the chorus or the pre-chorus, all the roads you walk along are winding. It's a long and winding road.
Yeah,
it's very true. Yeah, 1995. This was on the radio a lot. Like, I remember, like I said, this was the song that got me into Oasis, and just I think it's really got me is the acoustic guitar at the beginning. I absolutely love how it begins with that acoustic guitar, and then Liam's vocals coming in with that acoustic guitar sound so great together. I think that's what really hooked me in on the song when I was 11 or 12. And hearing this and just going, man, I love that vocals with just the guitar before the then adding in basically the first verse or whatever, and then adding in the like cello and the drums in. I mean, I just love that, kind of just layering the song. And yeah, it's so catchy. And after all, you're a Wonderwall. I mean, it's so good. And like I said, it's criticized so much. I feel like people love to hate the song.
Why?
And I'm like, I still love the song.
Maybe it's just because I haven't been overexposed to it. I've just like heard the meme. I've seen like the memes where you have like the person with the shocked face and the caption is whenever the guitarist cues up Capo 2. Or is it like, I don't know if that's an actual meme, but that's just something I came up with off the top of my head. But the song is a very good song and definitely one of the best.
Have you seen the movie Yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, he plays the song Wonderwall when he was like younger, and that's how he got connected to the girl in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that now.
And so that was like a thing, and then when he in the movie, like, the Beatles don't exist, and he Googles Oasis, and Oasis doesn't exist either, and he goes, yeah, that makes sense.
But yet the Rolling Stones do, which I wonder if like they became the biggest band of all time in that universe or something. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually really like that movie. I think it could have been better, and I actually have like an idea of how I would have improved the movie. That's a good idea for a video, is how I would have improved the movie yesterday. I should probably do that because I kind of have a alternate storyline for it in my head. I might actually work on that after this. So thank you for bringing that movie up, Jason. That
Okay,
and here's something that I want to do for a video. If anybody's watching this, a lot of people in the VC have commented on my really bad Bob Dylan impression. I want to make a video that's Bob Dylan sings Wonderwall.
Oh, that'd be good.
That'll be good.
Not to be for it to be actually good, but just to make kind of a goofy video. Anyway, let's move on to the next song. All right. The next song we have is Don't Look Back in Anger, another classic.
Man, yeah.
What
a great 1-2 punch right there.
Yeah. Honestly, sorry.
Oh no, you can go ahead.
For me, I feel like everything from Don't Look Back in Anger through Some Might Say is probably my favorite part of the album.
I agree.
Even though, honestly, I don't think there's any bad songs on this album.
No.
But yeah, I mean, Don't Look Back in Anger. I'm probably gonna admit right now, this is probably my favorite song on the album. It's just, this is actually one of the few times where Noel actually takes lead vocals this time, and you hardly notice it because I think both Liam and Noel have pretty similar sounding voices, so you don't really miss Liam or anything. But I just love the chorus too. It's just so memorable, so catchy to it, and the guitars on here just sounds incredible as well. And I love how towards the end they started bringing some string arrangements. I think that was just a great touch to it. And again, lyrics are very good as well. And I had to write this down because this is what Noel says about it, which to me pretty much sums up this whole song and what it's actually about. So in quote, it's about not being upset about things you might have said or done yesterday, which is quite appropriate at the moment. It's about looking forward rather than looking back. I hate people who look back on the past or talk about what might have been. End of quote. It's just a great message, and I just love it. I think it's my favorite song on here, so that's my take on it.
It's also my favorite song on the album, and
it's my favorite song too.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. We all match.
Wow, Triple Crown Award here. We were talking about Beatles references earlier and in the lyrics, but there's a Beatles reference here in the music. The first two chords are the intro to John Lennon's Imagine, and then it kind of switches up after that. But also, I feel also like the main chord progression is very similar to the "You May Say I'm a Dreamer, but I'm Not the Only One" progression as well. Maybe I'm the only one who's hearing that. But the song is obviously very influenced by John Lennon and Imagine. And even the line, like, "I'm going to start a revolution from my bed," was inspired by John Lennon's peace protest that he did in like the late 60s. Musically, definitely like the best song on the album too, lyrically as well. I really like the chord progression on this one. I really like the guitars. The guitars are a little more strong on this song than they were on Wonderwall. At least the electric guitars are. Wonderwall was more acoustic guitar, and then this one is more electric guitar and piano driven. And I like the orchestral arrangements. I like the guitar solo, and of course, you can't go on without mentioning the chorus, which is really catchy. And if you're talking about like sing along choruses for the audience, like this is the big one. Yeah. You can get the whole audience to like sing along with that because it's so catchy.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything he said. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Love the guitar solo in there. Love how the song begins. Is so great, and yeah, just great guitar parts, and just one of the great choruses, like you said. You're right. That would be so fun to sing to that song in a concert. This and Wonderwall has some of the best, I think, choruses to sing to. But yeah. It's my favorite. I agree.
Very great song. Next, we're going to move on to Hey Now. Honestly, for me, still a great song, but I feel like this is probably my least favorite up to this point.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Kind of another song about, not letting your past define you is what I gathered from the lyrics from it. It's a catchy song. I really enjoy the drums sound good, and the guitars again sound really nice. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot to say. It's just another pretty good song.
I feel like the drums are kind of the standout on this song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was an excellent song. I just listened to this album before this Zoom meeting, whatever.
Oh wow.
And forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot about this song really until I got to it on the album just now, and I was like, wow, this is a good song. I didn't realize how good it was. I think it's just Liam. I'm guessing it's Liam's Gallagher or whatever. Vocals are just so good on this song. Absolutely love it. It's just a really solid rock song. But yeah, it's definitely, I don't know, towards the top or towards the middle of the album, but like I said, I like pretty much every song on here. So
yeah, me too. Which is why it's difficult saying that this is one of my least favorites on the album, because I would put forth the idea that this is a perfect album, even though this is technically a 2-record album, because it came out in the 90s, and 90s albums are slightly longer and don't exactly fit on one record. All right, next we are going to get to the first of 2 untitled instrumental pieces, also known as the Swamp Song, Part 1.
Yeah. Yeah, in the context of the album, it's fine, but on its own, it's kind of like, okay, this is cool, I guess.
It's just a cool little instrumental transition, and that's just kind of what you got to take it as.
Yeah.
Kind of like, like in The Wall, you got songs like Stop, or I forget the other ones, but like some of the rock operas have songs that are like 30 seconds long. They're just little interludes. I would like equate it to that.
Mm-hmm.
Other than, I was reading that they would often open their shows with a full-length performance of this song, and not just the little 30-second interlude. That they would do like a full instrumental, and it was kind of like a jam that they would do live. So I feel like it would be more interesting to hear the full song as an instrumental, probably placed right before Champagne Supernova. That would have been interesting to have the full instrumental rather than just these little interludes. But that's my 2 cents about this song, as well as Part 2 later in the album.
Yeah. Does yours have a name? Mine just has a blank space by the number.
It's a blank space.
Okay.
It's untitled, but
just says blank space.
Yeah. Right, so here on my vinyl is where we have a bonus track that I'm just going to spend 5 seconds talking about. It ruins the album for me. Well, not ruins the whole album, but ruins the flow of the album. And whenever I play this vinyl, I'm just going to pick up the needle and go straight on to Some Might Say, because I don't really like the bonus track. Anyway, back to the album. We're going to get to Some Might Say.
Yeah, this is probably another one of my favorites on the album. I just like the guitar riff in the beginning. This was actually the first single off the album, and it was actually their first ever UK #1. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, this was actually the last single to feature their original drummer, because their first drummer left, and so they brought another person in. But besides that, it's just a really great, well-crafted song. Again, Liam sounds great on here. The guitar and the drums all come together, and it's just a really well-crafted song. So I don't have much else to say, but it's probably somewhere on the higher end of my ranking of the songs here. But yeah, really good song.
I have never heard this song until I listened to this album, and I thought it was amazing. So amazing, in fact, that it's now the theme song for the channel. I was like, forget about getting demonetized. I got to use this as the title music. But really catchy. I love the guitar. I just really think the melody and just the production that was done on this song is just captivating. It just kind of draws you in and is really catchy. That's what I would say about a lot of these songs on the album. But definitely another one of my favorite songs on the album.
Yeah, I'm right with you. It's one of my favorite off this album. I feel like there's 3 big hits off of here that I remember on the radio quite a lot. And this wasn't one of them that I remember on the radio necessarily. From my memory, at the time, being I'm the only one that was there at the time. But it very well could be. I mean, it is a really great song. Like I said, guitar, they do a really good job opening a lot of the songs with their guitar. I know, of course, I mean, you have to say this is Noel Gallagher's, he's the genius behind this album, kind of, because he not only, lead guitar player, I believe, but wrote pretty much all the songs on here.
And he also produced as well.
And produced, yeah.
Oh, so wow.
You have to think a lot to him putting this together the way he did. I think the other band members are probably out sleeping. He's all night probably working on this album, kind of thing. I think, and he made this definitely what it is, and some might say it's just amazing. Like I said, the melodies, the chorus, so good.
By the way, you may notice Nick's not here. He had something he needed to do, but he did send in his thoughts on the album, and he says Some Might Say is his favorite song on the album.
Yeah, it's great.
Sure.
Sorry, I got a text message.
It's always the most annoying part of recording.
Okay, now we can continue. Nick sent in his thoughts on the album, and believe it or not, Some Might Say was actually his favorite song on the album.
Good choice.
Yeah. Great song.
He actually gave it pretty favorable reviews, which is good considering that he mainly likes music from the 60s and the early 70s.
I was going to say, does he listen to 90s?
Not really. So I was surprised that he listened to this album, but I told him it was basically the second British invasion, and he loves the British invasion from the 60s. So he said he'd give it a listen, and pretty much all the songs he gave positive reviews to, except for the Untitled songs. But
yeah, I mean, this was a huge song in the 90s. I think I look at this as one of the pinnacle albums of the 90s for me, of course, and it sold really well. I know it did really well, both the UK and the US. And definitely, this is their second album. I think it was definitely, between the first one and this one, definitely put their name out there as one of the great 90s rock bands, I think, in my opinion.
For me, this is the best album of the 90s, as of right now.
Yeah,
there's a lot of 90s music I haven't heard yet. Like this, like Nirvana's Baby in the Pool album, whatever it's called. Never mind. That's what it's called. I listened to that recently.
Cool album name.
That Third Eye Blind's self-titled album is pretty good.
Great album.
People who are watching, drop some more great 90s albums down in the comments below. Albums that you think encapsulate the sound of the 90s really well, but also would be good for people who listen to mainly like 60s, 70s, and 80s, because that's kind of what I'm into. So go ahead and put it in the comments. Check them out.
Like I said, I have to throw Jagged Little Pill in there, and Tragic Kingdom from No Doubt was a big one at the time that everybody was listening to. I was a big fan of Creed. They're made fun of now, but I listened to their first two albums were pretty good, and I liked Matchbox 20 was a band that I really enjoyed in the 90s. I know the second album was Bent, I think. That was a pretty good album. But that's what I was listening to.
Speaking of which, the just random thought, back to the song, the chorus of this song, I can't get that out of my head sometimes. And I'm sitting there like driving and like like what's oh yeah, that's Some Might Say. Just pops into my head at random times. Okay, next we have Cast No Shadow, which is kind of the slower ballad on the album.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a sweet song. I really enjoyed this one. This was actually dedicated to one of Noel's friends. He was part of another band. His name was Richard Ashcroft. I hope I said that right, but he was in a band called The Verve, and the two were very, very good friends. And Richard wrote a song dedicated to him, so this is Noel's kind of song dedicated to Richard. And it's kind of talks about, because he sees Richard as this great songwriter, but not many people know about him. There's just so much potential in him that hasn't been tapped into yet. So he kind of wanted to help, wrote the song to him, and apparently Richard was so moved by it, he actually ended up quitting the Verve. I don't know much about the Verve, so I don't know what happened after that. But it's kind of a nice, sweet song, and you know, just writing a song to a friend. I really enjoyed this one, so a very good song.
Yeah, it's not as big as some of the other songs we just talked about. Like, I mean, that was a Murder's Row of Wonderwall, Don't Look Back in Anger, some might say, but still a solid song. I was listening to it, and maybe I like that it was, you know, not as heavy like you said as the other songs, so it was a nice contrast to get a little bit softer type song. And I like that there's some good backing vocals on this one, hitting some high notes. Like they're doing these cool notes in the back, and still love the vocals on here, and still a solid song.
I really like how it's kind of scaled back from some of the other songs here, especially having it like right after Some Might Say, which I would think is the loudest song up to this point anyway. Morning Glory is definitely the loudest song.
I was gonna say, we're getting the Morning Glory.
But up to this point, Some Might Say is the loudest song on the album. Then you have the quietest song on the album. I would say that this is probably my least favorite on the album, but whenever you're dealing with a perfect album, something has to be last, and it definitely serves its place on the album to kind of bring it back a little bit before we get into kind of a fun little track, and then a serious track, and then an absolute masterpiece of an album closer.
Yeah.
And speaking of a fun little track, we're going to get to She's Electric.
She's Electric.
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much summed it up there. It's just another fun song on here. This is I mean, it's basically Noel singing about a girl, basically, but from what I've gathered, I think the girl's with somebody else, so it's kind of one of those types of songs. But you know, musically, it's a very, very another one of those catchy kind of numbers, and musically, it also takes influence from, with a little help from my friends by the Beatles, so another connection there. But yeah, not a whole lot to say, but you know, it's a good song. I really like it.
Yeah, I was another song that I kind of don't remember too much about. I was listening to it just now, and I really was enjoying the song. I like it gets these high notes in the kind of the chorus like that, and I want you, and I was like, that's the first time I really heard him kind of go up and hit some of those high notes, and I was like, wow, that was kind of cool. I enjoyed that, and I like that there wasn't a lot of harmonizing on the album or anything, but there's a couple times here where you get some other voices in here, not just one. I enjoyed that, and as I was listening to it, I don't know why, as it ended, I just felt like, man, this sounds like this could have been on the Beatles album. This could have been on like the Help album, or like an early John song or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's just me, but I just felt like, man, this could have been a Beatles song to me. I mean, not like one of the big hits, but just one of their really good, solid songs.
I really like kind of the funny lyrics on this song. Because it, with kind of the sad subject matter of I like this girl, but like she's with somebody else, he kind of weaves humorous lyrics into that to where it kind of like you feel bad for the guy, but it's like, okay, that's actually kind of funny too. I think one of the lyrics is like, she's got a bun in the oven, but it wasn't my fault, or something like that. I heard that and I kind of was like I shouldn't be laughing at that, but I am.
I didn't have to listen to the lyrics next time.
This is kind of the humorous song on the album. You got like some of these really serious songs like Wonderwall or Don't Look Back in Anger, and then you just kind of have, this is just kind of a fun little song to kind of break the tension. Especially, I feel like Cast No Shadow was a very like serious song, and this song kind of just is like a fun little, all right, well now we're gonna like have the, and it's kind of like a but up feel to it. That is my thought about this song.
Yeah, it's not hard rock, it's not a ballad, it's just kind of a nice poppy sound. I don't know, upbeat sound.
Yeah. All right, now we've got the title track, Morning Glory. This thing is amazing. It starts out with like news broadcasts coming through and the sounds of helicopters flying by, and the guitar comes in really strong, and there's like the sense of urgency in the vocals there. Really great song.
Yeah, this is by far the heaviest song on the album, in my opinion.
I was gonna say
And
that.
because it's heavy, I'm gonna like it. So this is a great standout one for me. Another one where they kind of name drop a Beatle reference. I heard Tomorrow Never Knows in the lyrics. So that's kind of
So turn off your mind, relax, and float downstream.
Yeah, and lyrically is also pretty cool as well. So it's basically about having troubles getting out of bed, and it plays into the name of the album as well. Like, what's the story, Morning Glory? And I always wondered what that meant. And so when I did some research, from what I gathered, so what's the story is basically British way of saying what's going on, what's happening, and then Morning Glory. It's British slang for, I don't know if I should say it.
You can say it, and if it's inappropriate, I'll cut it out of the video.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, it's basically slang for that. So, what that's supposed to mean is like when you have one of those, it's kind of like you get excited or something like that. And so it's like what's going on that's going to make you excited or motivate you to get out of bed. So that's pretty much what it's supposed to mean. There's probably a better way of explaining that, but that's pretty much what I gathered when I did research. But at its core, it's a pretty good message. Finding something to motivate you to get out of your bed and take on the day. I just think that's a pretty nice way to pretty good message. And yeah, that's what I gotta say.
Says needs a little time to wake up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Glory, little time to blow your mind or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Might as well.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that it kind of had a political message, that like there's a lot of dark things going on, and like what's the story, like what's going on. So that's interesting that now I know like the real meaning behind the song.
Yeah, make me think of the song a little differently now.
Yeah, because I thought with like the helicopters and stuff, it was like an anti-war song or something.
Yeah. And maybe that could be part of it as well. Maybe the whole helicopters was like, that's kind of why he's staying in bed, because he's all this like political stuff's going on. Maybe that's like he's kind of demotivating him and stuff like that. So maybe that could be part of it too.
The end of this song definitely reminds me of Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here" album, because it kind of sounds like it's on the radio, and the radio dial switches to a different song, which is the Untitled Part 2.
Oh, that's right.
But the transition is just like the transition between "Have a Cigar" and "Wish You Were Here" on the Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here" album, because like the radio dial switches and it switches the song.
Mm-hmm.
But we already kind of talked about
I just had a flashback of listening to Bryer talk about the song "When I Think About You, I Touch Myself" on his channel.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah.
And then we had
awkwardly
we had the touching saga.
Yeah, you were there too, Garrett, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny seeing him awkwardly kind of talk about that song without actually talking about what was going on in the song.
Yeah.
Well, this was about
It made a great moment though.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, you don't need to explain it, but it was hilarious trying to hear Bryer go through the song. Yeah. Don't you love the guitar on this Morning Glory song where it's like bam, 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 bam,
yes.
Yeah. I was like, man, that's such a cool sound. I don't know what they did there, but I love it.
And the like just the way that he delivers the chorus, especially the way he delivers "What's the story, Morning Glory," except like he does it a lot better than I just did there.
Almost like he's yelling or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like shouting it out. Like, there's like an urgency in his voice, which is why I thought it was an anti-war song at first. He's like trying to spread his message of what's going on. Anyway, I don't know. I'll have to look into this song a bit more, because maybe there is kind of a bit of both in there.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, we got the Untitled second song, which is pretty much just another instrumental transition, except it ends with like some water, and like you can hear somebody like rowing in the water at the end, which transitions perfectly into Champagne Supernova. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to say about this Untitled second song, or if we want to just
No, not really.
move on to the big one.
No, you said it.
Yeah.
All right, Champagne Supernova. What a way to
Yeah.
end this absolutely monumental album. It's
Yeah.
like pretty much 8 minutes long, close to 8 minutes long, and it very much justifies its runtime. But it starts out really slow with that water sound effect in the background, and you get the guitar coming in, and it just kind of builds from there to the end. And when I first heard this song, I didn't understand the phrase "slowly walking down the hall faster than a cannonball." I'm like, that's kind of contradictory, but
Yeah.
when you realize it was just kind of put in there just because it sounds nice.
Oh, it sounds cool. Yeah. I love the rhyming of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Noel himself has said he has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
It just sounded good on the paper, so he just went with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very poetic sounding song, even if the lyrics all
Yeah.
don't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, what is a champagne supernova?
Yeah, what is it?
It's about where were you while we were getting high? That's the message of the song, right?
There we go. We solved it.
That's it. Anyway, really great guitar in this too, because it kind of builds, gets this guitar solo in the middle, and then it just all kind of goes out, and then you get at the very end just like the acoustic guitar strumming until you hit the final chord at the end. But I feel like if you're gonna have an album as great as this, you gotta have a great album closer, and this one definitely delivers on that.
Yeah, totally agree with it. It's definitely probably the most psychedelic sounding song on here, especially with the lyrics and all that. But yeah, it's just a great closing track. Like, the guitars sound fantastic on here, and might as well do a little tidbit. There was actually another guitarist on this track, Paul Weller, who I just recently started getting into because I bought one of his solo albums, and I bought one of the albums when he was in a band called The Jam. So it's kind of nice that little connection there, because I'm just starting to get into Paul Weller's music. But he has some great stuff on here. Just this great sounding. I mean, even though we don't know what it really means, it just has the music. Just has this kind of like very nostalgic, kind of melancholy, but also uplifting sound to it, where you can just interpret it just how you're feeling in that time. It's just a great way to close out the album, and it's this longest song on here, but it just doesn't feel that long at all.
Yeah. All right, now we are going to get it.
How many long songs are on this album? Like, there's 3 or 4 5-minute songs on here, and then you got this 7+ minute song. And this was on the radio, which you usually didn't have songs this long on the radio, but this was a huge hit on the radio in the 90s when I was listening to it. And yeah, another song I just fell in love with the first time I heard it on the radio. I remember my mom hearing it and didn't like it because it said, where were you while we were getting high? So she was like, what are you listening to? You're listening to this drug song. I'm like, no, Mom.
My mom would have gotten upset with "Wipe the crap from your shoe," but not the crap from your shoe. On Hello, that's what she would have been upset at. Like, she would have been like, "Where were you? We were getting high. Oh, drugs, whatever."
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know. You can't get away from it. That's like,
Yeah.
All right.
it's like, I'm not listening to gangster rap at least. I guess.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay, now we are going to get to our top 5 songs on the album and our final score. Bryer, I like that you've been saying the top 5, so we're just going to do top 5 from now on. Makes it pretty simple.
Good.
Yeah.
My top 5, and in this particular order, are number 1 is "Don't Look Back in Anger." Absolutely amazing. Number 2, I'm going to go with "Some Might Say." Another really amazing song. Number 3, I'm going to go with "Wonderwall." Number 4, I'll go with "Champagne Supernova." And number 5, I'll go with "Morning Glory." And then honorable mentions to "Roll With It" and "She's Electric."
Yeah, and I will say we have very similar ranking, just in different order. So my number 1 is "Don't Look Back in Anger," and my number 2 is "Champagne Supernova." Number 3 is "Wonderwall." Number 4, Some Might Say, and number 5 is Morning Glory. And my 2 honorable mentions are She's Electric and Cast No Shadow.
Would you believe this, Bryer? That's the exact same list I was going to tell you.
Oh wow, there we go.
Exactly what I was going to say. I was like listening.
Really?
Is he going to say Some Might Say? Is he going to say Morning Glory? And I'm like, oh my gosh, he said them all 5. Right.
Wow. That's cool. That's awesome.
You got the same top 5.
Same top 5, same order. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Crazy.
That's cool.
Well, then, Jason, you can be the first one to say your score out of 10.
Score of 10. That's, yeah, man. I want to say like a 10 out of 10. I just really love the album.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. For me, it was kind of tough. It was actually a hard one to rate, because while I really enjoyed this album, it does have, like, I should probably admit, I have a weird love-hate relationship with the 90s. Like, there's some great stuff in the 90s, and there's some not stuff in the 90s I don't care for. But this is definitely one of the good ones. So it comes down to the production, and the production is not my all-time favorite sound of all time, because, like I said in the beginning, when I first heard it, it was just so loud, I had to turn it down. But besides that, it's like the songs are just really good, and really, my rating could go up at any moment, at any day. The more I listen to it, the more times I listen to it. And for now, I'm gonna probably give it, forget it. I'm just gonna bump it up. I'm gonna go 8.5 on this one. I originally had an 8, but I'm going to an 8.5.
All right.
Okay.
If I were to remake my top 35 albums of all time list, this would definitely be on it now. This and the Zombies from last time. This album is a 9.5 for me. It's that good. I listened to it the first time, I thought it was good, but then the second time I listened to it, it was really good. And then the third time I listened to it, it was really, really, really good. And so, as it sits right now, maybe it's just because I've been listening to this album a lot, and it's what's in my constant rotation right now, but it's a 9.5 as of now.
Nice.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. We're really glad to have Jason and Bryer with us today. It was a really nice discussion with you guys. Really enjoyed this album. We're probably going to have a quick talk afterwards about what next time's album is going to be, because I want to make sure and include these guys in the process. I don't just want to be the one just being like, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. We want to have some equal say from all the people here. So I don't know what next week's album is going to be as of yet, but we will find out. And all I'm going to say is I hope it's going to be a really good one, because since we're only doing one a week, I want to give you guys an excellent video every week. So I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.